we're going to be getting an overview of the interface of the copy design feature and different ways to access it. Then we'll show the drawing view feature that exists in there and how we can make sure that we get drawings associated and seen within our copy design. Followed by customizing the view and configuring panels. In this section, we'll basically be talking about how we can customize the view of the copy design tool to have the look and feel that we need for our individual case uses. Followed by rules, conditions, and property behavior, and then we'll do a copy design walkthrough. All right. So what exactly is copy design for those of you who aren't familiar with it? Copy design is a vault tool that lets you create new design objects by copying existing data within a vault. Depending on which design application you're using, copying a design involves copying a drawing or 3D models and the related files, which can include other referenced or attached 2D drawings and 3D models. Copy design is now a modeless dialog with a toolbar. It can now remain open while you use the Vault client for other commands, as well as add files to be copied. In previous versions, users were required to close the copy design dialog before continuing to work in Vault. The copy design feature creates a copy of the design with the same structure as the source files. In the copy design dialog box, you can choose which parts of an existing design to copy or reuse a branch. You can also replace or exclude or detach certain items. For copy design in Vault 2021 Workgroup and Professional, rule sets are now stored on the server. This makes it possible for administrators to manage copy design rule sets globally and provide standard settings for copy design behavior. Additionally, new functionality in copy design makes it possible to copy property values from the original file to any user-defined property in the new file. For example, the original part number or source drawing file. Taking a look at the interface of the copy design tool, at the top we have the menu and the toolbars. In Vault 2020, the copy design tool got a revamp of the interface, and so no longer do we have the I guess disjointed looking toolbar up at the top. Everything looks familiar to other Vault toolbars and menus. In this area here is where we can add files, we can define our rule sets, we can refresh to take a look at make sure we're looking at the latest copies of the Vault files. We can modify our layout and use the find and replace. So lots of options here within both the menu pull downs as well as the toolbars. The next section is the main view or the grid, which basically would show the files that we have listed to place into our copy design tool to perform various functions on. In there, we can customize the panel. So we can certainly customize the headers up here in any way, shape, or form that we want to, so we're seeing the data that we want to see. And then over here to the right, we have the navigation panels, and these are customizable as well. You can see in the screenshot here that the panels are actually, we have some stacked on top of each other and some side by side. So those panels can be modified to suit your needs. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and pop on over to the Vault client, and we'll take a look at various ways to access the copy design. So one of the things I want to point out is the copy design tool has a standalone interface as well as within the Vault client. So if I go to the Start button and go to my Autodesk Data Management pull down, notice that I have the Autodesk Copy Design for Vault. So that is a standalone application that allows me to use Copy Design without having to actually log into the client. So if I click on that, then what I am prompted to do is to actually log into the Vault. So there still is a login requirement for that. But then once I'm logged in, I would have access to the files in Vault in order to get those files. I can use the Add Files button, and that would take me to the Vault folder structure and allow me to go and select the files that I want. So again, a standalone application separate from the Vault client. So I'm going to just go ahead and close out of that. The other way that we would access this is directly in the Vault client. If we go to a folder and find a file that we want to make a copy design on, we'd select that file. And here I've selected the pedal box assembly of the BAC mono. I can right click on that assembly file. And again, I can do this on a part file. I can do it on a drawing. I can do it with an AutoCAD. If I'm doing, say, AutoCAD electrical, one of the things that I would do a little bit differently here is I would want to make sure that I'm doing a copy design on a project and not just on the individual files. So different programs do have a slightly different workflow if they're more specialized. But here for the Inventor file, I can just right click and I can select Copy Design. And that's going to bring up the same Copy Design interface, except for it's going to load all the files that I basically have prompted that are associated with that assembly file. They all get loaded in here. So that's how I would bring up that Copy Design dialog box. I actually have to select on a file, right click, and do Copy Design. Can also get that from one of the pull down menus here. And I don't remember which one. There it is, under the Edit pull down menu, Copy Design, so you can get it there as well. So just by way of the interface again, let me just go up here to another folder, and I'm going to select this file here, and I'm going to do a Copy Design on it. And you can see that that file is populated here. So again, looking at the interface, the toolbars, we can add additional files. Even though I've selected one for Copy Design, I can add additional files to do a copy design. So if I've got other files that may be related to this but that aren't otherwise attached in any way, I can add those as well in here. I have the execute copy. I have the rule sets, which allow me to define rule sets for properties. And then we have the refresh. We have the layout, which can change how we're looking at files. And we'll take a look at that, some of these a little bit later as we go through it. Under the view pull down, one of the things I can do is show banding. So if I've got multiple files and I kind of want to have a visual differentiator between the files, I can show banding, and we'll take a look at that one a little bit later. These ones are persistent toggles, so once you turn them on, they're on, and once you turn them off, they're off. So you can see they stay in whatever state you leave them in. All right, so looking at the navigation panels over here, if I am to grab this panel, you can see that I'm able to make it float or be anywhere. I've got these nice little docking icons, which will, if I just hover over them, and what I've done in order to do this is my left mouse is still depressed. I'm dragging this with my left mouse. I can actually move this panel and dock it if I choose to any other location. So I can dock it. So once I come back here into the navigation panel, you can see that I can make some other adjustments as to where I put it. I can drag this in or out, and so on. So drag it to the top there, or make it my own panel there. I'll do the same here. Drag this over, drag my numbering, and there you can see I've got it kind of the way I like to see it, where I've got my folders and my where used and my numbering. Within the folders area, I've also got the actions tab. So if I had all of these stacked together, I would then see the numbering tab as well as the where used tab. So I would see these tabs down below here in the main, and that's kind of the default configuration, how that looks. So basically, in the main grid, I'm going to be doing performing functions like doing a copy or a copy to, where I can tell it where to go, and then once I do that, then it's going to start populating as required in the panels here for basically a final check for me to be able to kind of see visually where things are going to go. So in this instance here, if I take this file here and I do a copy to, and again, I can do that from here by right-clicking on it, or I can go to Actions and I can say Copy To. And if I go to Copy To, I'm going to go ahead and put this in the Breaks BRX folder under my test folder. So I'm basically coming out of where that data is under the breaks here. This is where it's coming from here. And I've got, say, a new system that I want to create. And so I've got that one under the Breaks BRX. So I click OK to that, and so we can see here now we have a destination where that's going, and I can execute that copy by coming right here and executing copy. What I can do here is see what the destination is going to look at. Currently it's going to say copy of. I want to talk about all of those things as far as how we can rename that and all the different options here in the panel. But I want to come back to some other items before we do that. So let me just pop back over to the PowerPoint. And we'll look at the next section here, which is the drawing view. So the drawing view is a configuration mode that lets you assign individual copy actions to drawings. So this is something a little different. By default, associated drawings receive the same copy action as the associated file. The linked action is denoted by the value of auto in the action column. So for example, if a file is marked for copy and the associated drawing is marked as auto, then the drawing receives the same new file name and save location as the associated file when the copy operation completes. In model view, documentation set to auto takes the same name, and this can result in file name duplication. So what we want to do is we want to go to our view in the copy design tool, go to view and show drawing view to turn on the drawing view to help resolve any file naming conflicts that might arise. So again, we'll take a look at that in the dialog here. So let me go bring up my Vault client, bring back up the copy design. So let's take a look at that functionality here. So I'm going to click on this guy, And one of the things I can do is I can clear the root node if I want to be able to get rid of what's in here and start with something new. Or typically what will happen after I do a copy design, when I bring it back up, what I did in there before is still going to show up. And so, you know, obviously it's done. So I'm going to clear the root node so I clear out any previous copy design functions that were there. All right, so let me close out of this, and let me go to my chassis files. I'm going to select this pedal box assembly again, right click, and go to copy design. So what we're looking at here is as an assembly file, and there is an associated drawing. You can see it right behind here in the Vault client. We have that associated file. So remember, the default is that a drawing is going to get the same function as the associated assembly file or drawing file here. So I'm going to go to Actions, and I'm going to do copy branch to. And I'm going to put that in the test folder, and I'm going to click OK. And you can see what that does. It gets that top node assembly, and it gets all the associated files and does a copy to. So what we can do is come over here to the folder section just to kind of get a preview of what that's going to look like. Click over here on the preview, go to test, and we can see that under test, we have that folder that file belongs in is getting copied over, as well as the standard parts and the pedal box assembly files are getting copied over as well. So all of that's getting new folder structure by copying that node to, gets all of those components, and I can see what's actually going on there. What I need to do is I need to come over here because there's no drawing visibility within this node. So I want to, and this is a persistent function. When you turn it on, it stays on. So I want to show the drawing view. And what happens is I get a little documentation folder, and there we can see there's the drawing. And what's happening to it? It's getting the action auto. So again, it's getting the same function as the assembly file. And so I can actually see that, and if there's any kind of duplicate file naming conflicts that I need to resolve or figure out with whatever drawings I have, then I can do that within this copy design dialog. Okay, so next thing we're going to look at is customizing the view and configuring the panels. We've talked about the panels a little bit, and so we'll talk about customizing the view. And basically that just is customization for how the copy design application looks. So you can customize the layout by adding, removing, and rearranging column fields, by toggling grid lines and banding on and off, and by enabling automatic column sizing. You can also select which navigation panels display and which navigation buttons are displayed. And that's part of the navigation panels configuration. Okay, so let's pop back over to our Vault client, and let's take a look at customizing the main pane and some of the other options here. So I can right-click on any of the column headers, and I can sort ascending or sort descending. I can turn on best fit so that everything basically adjusts its size based on the current window size. So if I expand the window size or make this dialog bigger, or expand, maximize the window, then I can use that best fit to to bring those in alignment. I can also change the alignment, and I have a column chooser here. So if I click on the column chooser, came up on another window, the column chooser allows me to select the columns that I need to see and be able to put them into the column header. So I can just click and I can drag and drop those in. So classification, I can drop that in, or maybe I want to show the material, something like that. Drag material, drop that in, and now I can see the material. And if I want to get rid of, something, then I can just drag it out back into the column chooser, and it goes away. All right, so that's customizing the columns. I can also reset the columns. So if I've added a bunch of columns that aren't part of the default standard, then I can reset the columns, and it brings it back to the default setting of what's available there. So it resets the column widths and such. Another thing that I can do is I can hover over each column heading, and there's a little filter button, and I can filter, and I can decide, what I want to filter. As a bad column to choose here. So if I had a bunch of different files, some were work in progress, some were released, something like that, I can filter, what I'm looking at. So I got some that maybe are null. There's no work state in there, like such as this file right here, no state there, or I can look at just the work in progress. So again, I can filter what I'm seeing in each of those columns. So those are that's another aspect of the customization that we can do here. Okay, so under the View tab here, I can show banding. I talked about that a little earlier, but show banding just gives you a little bit different visual display. Might be easier on the eyes to be able to see the different files by turning the banding on. And then also automatic column sizing. I can turn that on, or I can turn that off. One of the big things we can do is also modify the layout, how we see things. So right now we're looking at what we call a tree view. So it's showing everything in a tree type structure. I can modify that from the view pull down and change it here. And notice there's keyboard shortcuts as well. I can also change it from the toolbar here and switch. And thought I could do it from here, but it doesn't look like there's, I think, another option within the right-click context here that you can also do it. Excuse me. So the layout can change. So let's go ahead and change it to show the list view. We can see this in a little different context. And again, the columns can change and show things in a different order and show different columns based on that list view. And we can also click and show the folder view. And the folder view is going to show us how this actually, looks within our folder structure. Okay, so ways that this can be customized. Again, you can maximize this dialog box too, so that it takes full screen, gives you a little bit more real estate to work with, especially if you've got large assemblies and you don't want to be scrolling up and down, figuring things out. Again, can modify all of these to look and have the look and feel that you want. Okay, let's go back over to our presentation. So the next thing we're going to talk about are rules, conditions, and property behavior. So the biggest thing is rules, rule sets. So a rule set is a collection of property rules that determine file property behavior during a copy operation. In the slide here, you can see that there are some rule sets defined. There's a default rule set, a standard copy, and you can see there's a new project copy. So you have the ability to create new rule sets, or you can copy and start from existing ones, and then you can edit them. And of course, if they're obsolete in their functionality, you can delete them if you've got too many in there. The action rule sets, to be able to create that as an administrator function. And again, these rule sets are stored on the server, which is a new functionality. So that makes it so that you have the ability to globally utilize these in a more efficient manner with your team members. And so the default rule set is one that you cannot modify, so that's just something to take note of. So when you define rule sets, it's going to contain one or more rules. Each rule is defined by one or more conditions that, if met, assign certain file properties and behavior settings to the destination files. It's important to note that if a rule has more than one condition, all conditions must be met for the resulting property behavior to be applied. So just be cognizant of that. That is, the more rules that you add here with the property behaviors, it has to meet all of the criteria in order to apply it. So just something to be aware of, but it's very effective that I could take properties from an existing file and apply that property behavior to my resultant copied designs. So rules are created, edited, and deleted in the define rule set dialog. So let's pop over and take a look. All right, so here in the toolbar is the toolbar for defining rule sets. You can also go to options and go to action rules, and you can define it there. And you can see that there's a checkbox for what would be the default. You can see default rule set is set here. It's also set from this drop down, and I can pick and change the default. Okay, go back here. So now you can see, because I selected it from the drop down, that rule set is now active. So I'll set it back to default. So let's click the define button and take a look at the action rules dialog. So here you can see, here's the default rule set. It's shown, and it's also the default. We can click on the edit button to take a look at that, but notice everything's grayed out. We're not able to edit the default rule set. But you can notice what's interesting here is the rule condition builder is this, that if the property file name contains anything, okay, and we added that criteria, so the file name contains asterisk, anything, then the part number set value is file name. And notice that we also have a category name is set to reset. So basically what happens on this default, if I have a category such as I do here in the background of engineering, if I use the default rule set, my copies, my categories are all going to be reset to base, because base is what I have set as the default currently. So it'll be reset to whatever your default is. So that's actually pretty cool, but also just be aware that that's what will happen. So it's better to build a new rule set that takes into consideration that kind of aspect that you want. So once you either start with an existing and do a copy, or start fresh and do a new, that will allow you to edit that rule set. And you can see that the rule set that I'm editing, I've got a property in here that says checked by. If checked by is empty in mine, then what I want to do is I want to take the author property and set the value as user. So I want it to, put the username in to that author property if that's the case. So just something that I decided I wanted to do there. So again, multiple properties that you can set a rule condition builder and place it here, and then you can also set a property behavior on the right side and make that a part of your rules. So notice that in my rule, I don't have the category set to reset. So I don't have anything over here where I'm going, hey, take the category name and reset. I'm not doing that. So mine is just this author here. So I'm going to click OK. And notice that there's a checkbox for shown and not shown. You're not going to be able to select the rule if it's not shown, so make sure you do that. And I'll click OK here. So, all right, so that's pretty much the interface and the customization and all the different things that we can do with the copy design. So let's pop back over to our presentation. And what we're going to do is finish up with a copy design walkthrough. So what we're going to do is start off with selecting an assembly file in the Vault client and do a right click and copy design. And the second step would be to click add files to add additional files as necessary. So if we need to do that, we can certainly do that. In the toolbar, we can click actions and select the desired operation for the files listed in the main view. And then we would select the rule set to apply to the operation. So this is key to do this. Make sure that if it's, if you've got multiple rule sets defined, that you have obviously your most necessary or needed rule as your default, but then always make sure that for whatever copy design you're doing, that you're actually selecting the right rule set for that operation. Because if you don't apply the correct rule set, then you're not going to get the results that you are hoping for. And then once you're all done and you've looked in the panels and made sure everything is set, then we click execute copy. And that's it. So let's pop back over to our vault. And I'm going to go ahead and bring this dialog back down a little bit. And I'm going to close out of it just so we can start new and walk through this process. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this pedal box assembly, and we've decided that we're going to make some modifications and make an X or a super design. So we have folders that are going to be similar, but it's going to be, instead of brakes BR like we have up here, we're going to do brakes BRX. Same thing with the chassis. So we're going to do some folder renaming and make things for our X factor. So I'm just going to right click on this pedal box assembly, and I'm going to do a copy design. And so Vault is going to go ahead and gather all those relationships and make sure that everything is picked up. And again, I'm going to just double check. I have show drawing view is selected, so I like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to toggle that. See why that didn't show up there. There we go. So now we got it. So I'm just going to switch over to my my folder view, and you can see the drawing gets picked up here. And so what I'm going to do is, using this folder view, and it doesn't matter which view you use, I'm going to select that assembly, and I'm going to copy branch to. I like this because it's going to be able to get basically the entire design. It's very easy to get that. If I didn't want, and I just wanted to select just that top level assembly and do something different with the other files, I could certainly just do a copy to. This is important to use this function as opposed to copy. If I just use copy, it's going to initially, in my preview, generate a copy in the same folder. Well, if that's what I want, great. But typically, I'm going to want to put it in a different folder. So I'm going to do a copy to. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to do copy branch. Actually, copy branch to, and I'm going to put that into the test folder, and I click OK. And so it's going to grab basically everything, and I can just come over here and kind of see what I got going on. So by default, it's creating a new folder. You can tell by the little asterisk in the folder that those don't exist yet. So I have the copied folder. There's the copy of the file, and there's my subfolders. And so what I want to do over here in the folders panel is, in previous versions, things weren't this intuitive or this easy, and they've really done some good work in modifying how we can do this. So one of the things I want to do is, remember, I'm making my X factor design here. So I'm just going to right-click on this and rename that. So I can just very easily rename that folder right here within the folders in the destination. So chassis CHX, and then even my standard parts, I'll take that folder, right click and rename, and that's going to be SPX. You can kind of get an idea of what's going to happen with these files or these folders. These new folders are going to be named appropriately. And then a couple other things that I can do. I want to show you this first before I get into actually using automatic numbering. In this dialog, we can right click and we can do a find and replace. And what I can do is, let me expand these guys so you can just kind of see everything. All right, so what I want to do is I want to find copy of, and I'll just do find, oops, and oh, one of the things you can do is notice it'll do it within the main panel, which it just did, or I can do it in the numbering panel, which is over here, or the folders panel, which is this guy right here. So I'm going to do folders panel, and I'm going to do find. Okay. And now what I want to do is I want to do replace with, and let's do a space, and I want to replace all. So what happens is it replaces all of those files from the copy of with just the standard name. So I did this just so that I could easily get those files, get the copy of removed from all the files. Then the next thing I'm going to do is come into the replace with, and I'm going to do M dash, I'm going to change my find. Sorry, I got to change my find first. So M dash CH. And I'm going to change that to CHX. And I'll go ahead and hit batch case. I'm going to replace all. And you can see there that all the MCs were found and all are renamed to MCHX. And I can do the same thing with the SPs. So I can just do the same thing right here, change this to SP, and change these two characters to SP. So I'm going to do the SPX. I'll do find. There they are. And I'll replace all. And now it's SPX. So really good way to be able to, and it's more intuitive, to be able to kind of rename the files the way that you would like to. And in this case, that's great. The files are renamed. I keep the same numbering structure as what my previous design had as far as the auto numbering. I'm just changing the to the X factor here. So that allows me to do that. And then I can close the find and replace. And then the last thing maybe I want to do is this vendor supply drawing. Maybe I'm going to change how that's used. Instead of copying that, I'm just going to reuse that one. So that one is reused as opposed to being copied. And let's see, I probably just need to do a refresh on that. Let's see what that looks like. There we go. Yeah. So just a refresh to get, an update to what I've done. And so now I've got I've got one more folder here to rename that I didn't catch. So I'm going to right click and rename that and give that one to the CHX. And that gets renamed. So now I can kind of look in this panel and I can see that everything looks the way that I want it to, and I should be good to go. And what I would do here is I would execute that copy. And so again, just very, very intuitive now compared to the previous versions on how to get your files renamed the way you want them to. And this is the way you would do it if you're not using auto-generated numbering. To be able to use that find and replace just makes it very easy to do that. And then you would just click execute copy. So what I could also do though is I could go to the numbering panel here, and I can look and see, I can set my values for my prefix, make sure that's set to none. But what I want to do is I want to come up here to options, and I want to look at my numbering schemes. Notice that even though I have a numbering scheme defined in Vault, it's not showing up in the copy design. I have to go to configure, and you can see that I have this BAC Mono X. It's not shown. So I want to show that, and let's go ahead and make it default as well. Okay, so now I can, let's see if I can refresh this and if it's picked that up, or if I need to kind of start over here. Yeah, let's see here. Those are all set to none. So let's see if I can do, I'm going to select them all. And then I'm going to change the scheme to BAC Mono X. So now you can see what's happening is it doesn't know what the numbering scheme, what the number is going to be. So it gives us the preview in a manner that we don't know yet what this is. But we can go ahead and we can go ahead and execute that. So if you're using automatic numbering, that would be the way to do that. Select your files here, change the scheme that's being used. Make sure your rule set's correct. Mine has not been set, even though I harped on that. I need to make sure that I select the right rule set from the drop-down list. Now, with the rule set being selected, the numbering scheme being used, I can go ahead and I can execute. And we'll let Vault do all the heavy lifting, all the work, let it manage all the links and make sure that everything is propagated to the proper place. And all the auto numbering will take effect. All right, so now we can see that everything's kind of refreshed here. And the folder no longer has the new, it's been created. And notice this, that my files all have the numbering already set to them. I get the check mark indicating the successful copy design of the files. Now I can also, while in this dialog box, again, this is really good because of the standalone dialog box that we have. I can right mouse click and I can do go to, and I can go to the source folder or the destination folder of this copy design and be able to, go directly to that folder and look at that file and take a look at it. We'll let that generate the new preview. And now you can see in our test folder over here, the standard parts. I did a go to destination folder, selected it. Here it is. There's my new file. And key point, because I use the proper rule set, notice that I'm getting the proper category assigned to the files. If I had used the default, this would have all been reset to base because that's my default file category. Great. All right. Lot to see inside of the copy design, and I think with the new functionality, Autodesk has done a great job in making it quite a bit more intuitive and easier to use. So with that, we'll take any questions.